Part of the problem too that we're seeing is just the very simple scapegoating, right? And so, for instance, any discussion on critical race theory, this is Marxist,
Right.
And I hate to burst your bubble here, but Marxist theory is alive and well in the academy,
Yeah.
right?
Been
So
there
like,
ever heard of sociology?
so if you think a witch hunt on critical race theory is going to take care of Marx, you better think again. The other thing that I think we have to take into account is when we talk about theories, these are lenses of interpreting data.
Right.
Right. So in the world of academia, whenever you're conducting research, you have your method and you have your theory. Your method is the way by which you collect that primary data, and your theory is how you're analyzing it and you're interpreting it. And I actually went through a few different school websites to kind of give a little overview on critical race theory. So this is Michigan State University. Quote, critical race theory, or CRT, is a framework developed in the 1970s by legal scholars that argues white supremacy, controversy, maintains power through the law and other legal systems. Framework, right? Critical race, and this is from Purdue University. Critical race theory, or CRT, is a theoretical and interpretive mode that examines the appearance of race and racism, right? A theoretical and interpretive. UCLA School of Public Affairs. Critical race theory was developed out of legal scholarship. It provides a critical analysis of race and racism. Analysis, right? The Encyclopedia of African American Culture and History. Although the movement around CRT began with law professors and students, it is interdisciplinary. It uses theories and methods of economics, history, sociology, pedagogy, literature, narrative theory, and cultural studies.
Yeah.
Right. And also, if you have no idea what any of those disciplines are, you're probably really late to the conversation anyways.
Sure.
But all of this is to say that when we're talking about theories, they're lenses for how we can interpret the world.
Right.
And for instance, when you're in college, I mean, I took it was an intro history class to actually just studying history.
Yeah.
And we read through this book called the Houses of History, I think was the title. And we went through probably 15 different theories that are popular for historians to use to interpret. And guess what? One of them was Marx. We were reading Marxist theory, and no one was like, oh, this is taboo, this is dangerous, no, we're just going to apply this to this data, right, to try and come up with something. Now, I will say this. I think in terms of theory, and when it talks about, and in this discussion of engaging data, for instance, history and American history, and talking about race, we have a problem in America with letting Black people lead the conversation. A big problem. And we can just look at history,
Sure.
right? Where it's like, okay, who are all the professors? White people, right? Like who are all the people that are leading the charge on these discussions? White people, historically. I mean, whenever people hear white supremacy, it's like, oh, or white privilege. Okay, look at our presidents in American history, right? We have had one Black president.
One guy in there.
And you say like, oh, well, we had a Black president. Racism is gone. We've had one.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
What would the conversation look like if there were 20 Black presidents?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
That were coming from their social location, from their perspective, from their communities, and saying, these are the things we need to speak up on, right? And speak into,
Sure.
And so, I mean, people are freaking out about critical race theory, but there's plenty of other theories that aren't even being discussed or probably even known. Afro-pessimism, Afrofuturism, I mean, negritude. Like, there are so many disciplines or theories that are being pushed forth by the Black community, and white evangelicals they've just been left in the dust because they, like we talked about earlier, are not accountable to the Black church, are not accountable to Black intellectuals, don't really care. And so you have this whole intellectual movement that's moving along.
Right.
And it probably critical race theory isn't even possible without post-colonialism.
Right.
Right? Like post-colonial thought came, in the mid 20th century, right? Which is challenging power structures.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, Great Britain, this like small, I don't even understand. It's like, this small little island. A fourth of the globe was under like these guys, right?
Yeah.
And just how they were controlling and
Guns
deciding,
are powerful,
right?
Guns and germs are
Guns
powerful.
and germs are very powerful.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if you are new to even just the discussion of post-colonial theory, which is huge in the academy,
Sure.
right? Then you're going to get to critical race theory and say, what is this?
Sure.
What? And And through it all, we've ignored Black intellectual thought. We've ignored these theories that are so important. Post-structuralism. Really getting into some of these things.
Stuff that I think that evangelicals have no idea about. Really.
Sure.
And here's the thing. If you have these other theories, you like you said, you don't need critical race theory. Like we can go. We've got so many tools in the tool belt.
Yeah.
Sure.
Which is and I know that critical race theory. I don't know who I was reading, but there are kind of like 11 different kind of components to it, which are even debated.
Right,
each of those.
exactly.
But the 11th one is that, this isn't just theory, it's also praxis.
Right, yes.
Right? So then, is this just a lens or is this, but again, you don't have to necessarily accept it, right? But at the end of the day, this is a tool, and we have plenty of other tools that the Black community, Black intellectuals have provided us. And part of this is because historically, we have not focused on underprivileged voices.
Right.
Sure.
And in history, this is huge,
Yeah.
right? Like, do we need another history book on Joseph Stalin?
Right.
I mean, like, we know the guy. Do we
Right.
need another one on Hitler?
Right.
Right? Like, I mean, we like know the guy. But what about the immigrant community during the New Deal policies? How is that affecting them?
Yeah.
How is it affecting First Nations and
Yeah.
Native
Yeah.
Americans?
Yeah.
Right?
This
How is
Acts,
it? How is
Acts
it?
chapter 7.
How is it affecting the Black community?
Right.
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 And when we are applying some of these theories of post-structuralism, of post-colonialism, as historians, we're asking these kinds of questions,
Right.
right? What are the voices that we are leaving out? And here's the thing. History is not about loving or hating anything. It's about truth.
Right.
And what can we learn from that truth?
Sure.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? And so part of the conversation we need to expand who we are engaging and interacting
Yeah.
with. Because here's the thing. I'm sitting in between two Black brothers in Christ who have said, we don't need critical race theory.
We don't. Yeah.
We need to be, as the church body, we need to be responding to it differently.
Yes.
Yes, we need to have a gospel response. And let me just say one thing to that as well.